Hey everyone, and welcome to Real Life Real Crime Daily for Friday, March 3rd. And I'm Jim Chapman.
And I'm Woody Overton.
And I'm Mike Agavino. Welcome back, everybody.
What's up?
Murdaugh time.
Gosh.
Murdaugh murders.
What a day yesterday was.
Eminem, Murdaugh murders.
I like it.
Well, first, thanks to everybody. I mean, we had a lot of people weighing in and obviously a lot of interest from the audience about this trial and here in its closing days, closing hours. Even more interest than there has been, and so we're going to give you wall-to-wall Murdaugh this morning.
Yeah, and I have the results for that poll. By the way,
I think we need to let the poll go all the way through, letting people hear the defense, closing, and
well, the polls are been voted on that what these people want, but you have the poll for that one, so I actually went and counted it on the group page and the other page, because every time I shared it, people voted underneath, and you won't believe what the results are.
Well, just from what I saw, it was very, very heavily weighted to guilty.
But the problem with that is you're right, there was maybe 2% that was not guilty, but there was about 25% that said, I know he's guilty, but they didn't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
Well, then that means not guilty is what they're voting for.
But y'all weren't in the courtroom. I'm telling you, Woody Overton's knowledge of the courtroom is going to come back and
well, and I don't know how many people got a deep dive into everything that happened yesterday, which obviously we're going to take together right now, but that could have impacted them in a very meaningful way.
You about to get schooled on Eminem, Murdaugh murders.
Eminem.
And guess what? In another week, this should all be over with. Be an afterthought.
Yeah.
Right?
And then,
Except for I'm getting 2 cases of beer. Actually, since Shinerbach hadn't reached out to us to sponsor us, I want to change it to Cane Break, which is by Parish Brewing Company out of Louisiana.
See, I think it should be.
That's a deal, because I know where that is.
Dollar-based, and it's whatever I want to order on Drizzly.
I try to get you some Don Julio.
So whatever I want to order on Drizzly, I'll get my Don Julio.
Yes.
And
Drizzly
you can
rocks,
get your Shinerbach, and Jim can get his Coors Light or
download that.
Whatever he's drinking.
How convenient, man. Whoever invented that is a genius.
Creighton Waters came into the courtroom yesterday, I think, understanding that he was behind by a touchdown on the scoreboard based upon some things the defense had done in the final days of the trial. And he came in and, like a quarterback with 2 minutes left, down 7 points, I think he drove his team down the field and led a great drive and scored. There's a lot that he did, and we're going to go through a bunch of what was covered yesterday. But the only criticism I would give him is I think it could have ended 45 minutes to an hour earlier than it did. I thought that last 45 to an hour was more or less redundant, that he had a jury that had already been out at the Moselle site in the morning and had come back and had been through a 3+ hour closing from him. They had to be pretty fatigued at that point. And whenever you hear somebody continually apologizing for the length of their presentation in whatever context it is, you know they are sensing from the audience that the audience is fatigued. And he was doing a lot of apologizing there in the last hour because he could sense that they were checking out mentally. And so I wish he would have brought it to a conclusion faster than he did, but he delivered a lot of meat during most of his time yesterday.
Well, he did. And I agree with you that he could have probably shortened that a little bit. There was a lot to cover. There's no doubt about it. And look, when you feel like you're down by a touchdown, you're going to want to take probably a little more time to push your case than is necessary just because you feel like you're down. And he did a few things specifically in his summation that I thought were genius. And I'm going to give you one of those right now, which is there was a point during his summation where he used this term, and I'm going to quote him. He was in the midst of explaining how Miss Murdaugh was running towards the shooter, which they were able to determine. And he said she was running to her baby. She heard that shot and was running to her baby when she got mowed down by the only person that we have conclusive proof was at the scene just minutes before. The strong term and all that, and all you mothers out there can relate to this, and fathers as well, but mothers especially, because we're talking about a female here. When he used the term, she was running to her baby, every mother in that courtroom, every mother in the jury, and every mother who heard that on TV was probably like, I get it. I would have done the same thing, right? You don't even care about the shooter at that point. I thought that was strong. I thought he was appealing to the emotion of this predominantly female jury.
Yeah, it was well played.
Well, I thought his presentation was really well organized. He basically got in front of the jury and said, "We are going to walk you through motive. We're going to walk you through means. We're going to walk you through opportunity, and then we're going to walk you through consciousness of guilt and guilty conduct following the crimes." And so he set the stage very early with the audience, with the jury, that's what this closing was going to be. It was going to be a review of his motive, and I thought he was really powerful in delivering the motive. And some things became clearer there that I wasn't clear on until he did that. Same thing with means. Same thing with opportunity. Relying on a lot of this forensic evidence, this mobile phone data, and all of that to really crystallize what the opportunity was, and then his documentation using a lot of video evidence as well to show what his post murder behavior was, and basically he said, look, this was a Ponzi scheme. This is a guy who made some bad land deals, developed a bad drug habit, was trying to overcome that, and for a decade he was on this hamster wheel where he would pay one thing off by accessing money another way. And so he was robbing, he was stealing, he was doing whatever necessary to keep the Ponzi scheme going. And throughout that, he was lying to family, he was lying to his business partners, he was lying to clients he represented, he was lying to everyone he had to lie to in order to keep the scheme going. And if he's capable of looking all of those people in the eyes and telling the kind of lies that he did to keep to sustain his time on that hamster wheel, why would you think that he would be doing anything other than lying in this courtroom to keep the hamster wheel going again? I thought that was really powerful. And he said, look, there was only one person who had the motive, the means, the opportunity, and whose guilty conduct after the murders shows that they committed the crime. I mean, okay. He was strong.
And look, a lot of this today that you're going to hear, y'all, I'm playing devil's advocate on. What I'm doing is stepping completely away from the situation and taking my personal thoughts out of it and basically giving you a whole nother view on that, as if I were a juror and I didn't know anything about the case. And one thing I will tell you is, in my opinion, the Prosecution is wrong. He was not the only one to have a motive. There is a lot of motive that lies with, look, if my daughter died in a boating accident because a guy was drunk and killed her, I've got a strong motive to go kill him. There's no doubt about it. And there are, of course, I have no direct knowledge of that, nor do I think that necessarily happened, but that is a motive. And actually, in my opinion, it's a stronger motive. That somebody from the outside did it that had a relationship with the girl that was killed. That is a strong motive to do that. As a matter of fact, I would almost bet you that the police probably investigated that. And they investigated that, I'm sure, because they said, here's a guy who would have a reason to kill her, or here's a guy who would have a reason to pay somebody to kill him. So for them to say he was the only one with a motive, I think was a stretch. I think they had to do it, and I agree with it, relative to what they're going to have to say. But honestly, I think throughout this entire case, motive was really the hardest thing I struggled with, because he was in a lot of financial debt, but everybody seems to forget this dude was making $1 million bonuses. His bonuses on average were over $1 million a year. He was only $3-point-something million in debt. That's pretty easy to pay when you make $1 million a year. Velocity of money, which Mike just talked about. Yes, when you're spending at a high rate and you're gathering a lot of debt, you have to keep that going. People have been in situations where they have credit cards. They've run up so high, they got to take another credit card to make a payment just to make the minimum payment on the card they have.
Rob and Peter pay Paul.
That's right. And eventually that credit card shuts off, and that's when you're in a bind. Or you run it up to its limit and you can't pay the other credit card and you get in a bind. It's that situation on a huge scale. But I struggle with the amount of money this guy was making. It was in the amount of property he owned. He wasn't in as bad a financial position, I think, as they were painting it to be. Now, he was stealing from everybody on God's green earth.
It looks pretty dire to me.
Well, I mean, all his debt combined was $3.4 million, according to what I saw.
Let me tell you this real quick.
He made 1.5.
Forget it. You said motive, but one thing prosecution does not have to prove is motive.
No, they don't.
Have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, and they'll say that, and probably when he gets up and redresses whatever defense is going to say today in their closing arguments, if he says anything about motive, he's like, my job's not to prove motive. It's to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm just telling you.
I know. No, I agree. I agree. But if I'm a juror, who are you to tell me what you have to prove to me? I may want to know the motive.
Right. Yeah. You always want to know the motive.
Right.
Sometimes you don't know it.
Right.
You can't prove it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. This is a perfect case of that.
I certainly think that it checks off a lot of boxes for him. Boy being dead, he's not responsible. On the lawsuit part, certainly he would have had, like y'all talked about, the land insurance or homeowners insurance where the maid allegedly falls. We know she was murdered, but it's not proven yet. But he got to pay out of some type. Plus, he's free of them too, and he might have had a squeeze on the side.
The big thing, Waters talked about this gathering storm. That was the metaphor he used, that this was a storm gathering around him. And Mark Tinsley, who was the attorney hired by the Beach family to the Mallory Beach, the girl who died in the 2019 boating accident, was hired by her family, and he was seeking a settlement with Murdaugh. Murdaugh had one big problem, which is after the whole Satterfield situation and settlement, his insurance company dropped him. So he had no coverage. Mm-hmm. So he had nobody who was going to backstop him in any deal with Mallory Beach's family. Let me just finish. he told Tinsley, maybe I can scrounge $1 million together. Tinsley filed a motion to compel. That was the hearing was granted, not the motion, but the hearing to hear it out. And that hearing was ironically scheduled for June 10th, 2021. Now, if it had been granted, the motion to compel, that would have allowed for forensic accountants to come in and do a complete review of Alex's total financial picture, which would have exposed all of his financial crimes. And so there's money as a practical matter. Were there enough assets to sell off to possibly cover the debts and come out? Yeah, maybe that would have destroyed the family's reputation and all of those kinds of things. So he's trying to avoid something like that at all costs. But bigger than that, he had a line in the sand date that if that hearing went the wrong way, which I don't know, but call it a 50% chance it went the wrong way, then once that happened, there was a 100% chance of him being completely undressed publicly.
I agree, and I will say the lawyer from Mallory Beach totally impressed me. He's very tough and strong speaking, and he's seeking justice for his clients. And I thought he came off on the stand beautifully. To your point, if I'm recalling correctly, the insurance that he had would not cover watercraft. That was the issue. He had a policy that was canceled, and then he got another policy that was almost like an umbrella policy for his entire property. And the problem was it did not cover watercraft, for sure.
Well, this was a big item yesterday, and
he in effect didn't have insurance. You're right.
he had no umbrella coverage.
But his story was, I assumed my insurance to cover my property also covered my watercraft.
But he didn't have insurance covering his property.
Oh yeah, he did. They talked about it. They talked about they called the company, and the company said, we don't cover boating. We don't cover watercraft and things like that.
But so he may have had a basic homeowners.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, but he didn't have a policy that would pay out on a wrongful death suit.
I'm agreeing with you. What I'm saying is his reasoning for all of that was, and he's lying. I mean, he's a lawyer. He would have known this. But Alex Murdaugh's story was, I assumed the policy I had, basically like my homeowner's policy, would cover that watercraft. It did not. So this lawyer also spoke of a situation where he was at a party. Well, it was a meeting of lawyers
conference,
yeah. And this is something that takes place every year in that state. And Alex Murdaugh actually approached him and essentially tried to threaten him, basically intimidate him. And he said on the stand, I got tickled. He said, he tried to intimidate me, but I wasn't intimidated. Now, Alex Murdaugh is a big guy, y'all. He this gentleman was probably average height, 5'10", something like that. He's 6'4", and at that time he had some weight to him. He was probably all of 260 or so, and so I'm sure he tried to physically intimidate him as well. But this guy wasn't biting. Very tough lawyer and very impressive on the stand, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, he absolutely was. And so, think about it. The June 10th date is looming over him. The pressure is getting intense. If the motion to compel is granted, then he is fully exposed. In the aftermath of the murders, all of the pressure recedes. He's now a victim. The community's embracing him. His own law firm is backing off. Everybody's rallying around him, right? He gets the he gets the $750,000 from Palmetto. So they, as far as his firm knows, everything is resolved and restored. And so, all of the pressure that was piling up on him greatly receded immediately after the murders.
Hey, ladies, are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? Well, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living in our environment right now. It's in your food, your water, the air you breathe, the clothes you wear, your skincare products. They all mess with your hormones. Then there's the natural hormone changes your body goes through, premenopause, menopause. And while it's a natural process, it doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. The good news is you don't have to suffer through it anymore, because now you have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms in women of all ages. Hormone Harmony is not just a hormone support and supplement. It's become a phenomenon. Women can't stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. And the biggest benefit? Well, my wife says it makes her feel like her own self again. And that's what women mention over and over in the reviews. And there are over 30,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC for 15% off today. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC. Hey, y'all, let me tell you about Gobble. All Gobble meal kits are pre-prepped. That means less work for you and less waste in your kitchen. Their meal kits include everything you need so you can save time at the store or just skip that trip entirely. I got the box in and I had 3 different meals. I had a Kung Pao chicken, crispy fish tacos, and a beef bourguignon, however you say it. But let me tell you about the classic beef bourguignon. Look, it came with beef pot roast and a beef broth concentrate, red wine demi-glaze, cremini mushrooms, cipollone onions, mashed potatoes, baby carrots, and rosemary thyme butter. It was so easy to make. Literally like 15 minutes it took Cindy. And let me tell you something, and all the dishes were fire, but this thing was like a taste explosion in my mouth. It's just unreal. We've got to spend more time together and more time doing the things we love because everything came in this one single box right to my door. So see what a difference Gobble will make for your household. Right now, they're offering my listeners a fantastic limited time deal. You get $120 off across 4 boxes plus free shipping and free cookies. And let me tell you, those cookies, I ate one that was sin baked and it was delicious. Go to gobble.com/real life. That's GOBBLE.com/real life for $120 off your first 4 boxes. This offer is not available on the home site, so don't miss out. This is genius. It's taste explosions in your mouth like you never had. Breaking news. Just in, a juror was excused due to improper communication in the Murdaugh murder trial Thursday, which marked the 28th day. It could likely be the last day before the jury deliberations begin. Another one says a juror in the Murdaugh trial has been removed due to improper conduct, according to Judge Clifton Newman. Happened 3 minutes ago.
So what happens?
I read his
case?
text. I didn't actually speak to him. That's okay, isn't it?
That's what it was, y'all. The juror was reaching out to Real Life Real Crime Daily for Jim and Mike's take on it because they were confused.
So what?
So what happens now is one of the
alternates,
the first alternate up which they've sat there the whole time and everything else. I'm sure on appeal, because I know I'm going to win this and he's guilty as fuck. But they'll say that, that'll be raised on appeal anyway. Let's just hope a couple more don't go through.
And it's worth noting that there's only a couple alternates left. They've already had one guy got sick and had to be brought to the hospital just yesterday after they returned from Moselle, and they had to plug in an alternate. I believe, I don't know how many alternates they had. I don't want to speculate, but I heard on I heard on the news they were down to like 2 alternates left.
Now, if that happens, then that whole shit show is going to have to.
Oh my God! Let's hope nothing else happens. They're right here at the end.
Sorry to cut you off. I knew you would want to know that, Mike.
Yeah, that is.
Oh, here it is. This morning, a juror was removed from the Murdaugh trial for discussing the case and expressing an opinion to multiple non-juror third parties. The juror was removed and closing arguments began. With Jim Griffin.
And they shared his opinion? What was his opinion?
Yeah.
They said, guilty as fuck. Fire up the short bus. That's what he said. Not really.
Well, there you go. You can only get breaking news on Real Life.
Did they tell you how that came about? Like who motioned for his dismissal or her dismissal?
I don't know, but we're going to find out. This was only 3 minutes ago.
That'll be interesting.
Very interesting. So as the prosecutor moved on in this trial, y'all, another thing that, I've had kind of a problem with since the beginning is the focus on the financial crimes that, look, Murdaugh, as his friends call him, was a total piece of shit. And nobody on this show for sure would debate that. And he did a lot of financial tomfoolery to a lot of people that was just absolutely awful and horrible and disgusting. But I felt like throughout this case, the prosecution focused on it way too much. There was one particular day in which the news channel, whichever one it was, counted the amount of times the word murder was said. And then they counted the amount of times financial or alluding to financial crimes was discussed. And it was like throughout that whole day, 4 times the word murder came out and 400 times financial information was discussed. It definitely needed to be discussed. I felt like it was important to establish that he was desperate. And I just felt like it was almost the entire basis of the case. And for me, I don't see enough of a relation between that and murdering your child and your wife. So I felt like it was almost having the opposite effect for me in that is this the only evidence you have? Is that he owed a lot of people a lot of money and he stole from people? Because to me, that doesn't equal murder. What's your thoughts, guys?
Well, I think he had to do that, not just to establish the financial crimes, but to establish that lying to people close to him, lying to family, lying to business partners, lying to clients, that he became obsessed with his self-interest. He didn't care about another human being on earth, and he would do whatever the hell he needed to do in the moment to continue to live and present himself publicly in the way that he wanted to present himself. And, I think they did an excellent job explaining to the jury how someone with Alex's deep legal expertise could choreograph all of this in his mind, how he thought through all of this. He's a brilliant guy who understands the law, who, worked through all of this. And, one of the things in here that I think this trial, knocking on wood, that in the aftermath it will be remembered for is, I think, the most key piece of evidence is his son Paul speaking from the grave, because the fact that the evidence puts him at the kennels 5 minutes before the time of death, and the fact that he denied immediately that night, in the days after, as late as August, in an interview. And in that interview in August, he was told that Paul's friend Rogan thought he heard him when he was on the phone with Paul, when Paul was at the kennel. So he is asked numerous times by police whether he was there. He denied having been there, right? And then the police are not able to get, because I guess you've got to go through a shit ton of red tape before you can get access to someone's locked mobile phone.
Especially someone that's deceased.
So it wasn't until April of 22 that police get Paul's phone unlocked, and they find the video, which was not sent. Okay, it never sent to Rogan, but that video from 8:44 p.m. clearly has Alex's voice in the video. And so once that came out, he had to address it, and he came up with what he always comes up with, a bullshit story to try and cover this thing he didn't plan on having to address. This is his son speaking from the grave with this video. Is my father was there, and now he's doing a combination of the paranoia from his opioids and his distrust of SLED, and those were the two reasons he didn't tell. And I thought, again, Waters did a great job yesterday of saying the most important thing you could have told police at any point during this, if you're an innocent man, is I was there just a few minutes before.
Yeah.
And you didn't. And the only reason you changed your story is because
You got caught.
we got caught.
But
Go ahead, Woody.
you go ahead, because I have a totally different train of thought on what y'all were saying about the evidence in the jury.
Okay, so I'm going to give you, and I went back and forth on this point, and Mike makes a good point here, and so did the prosecutor, and it did create a huge issue. They focused on this lie for probably 6 hours one day in this when they had Murdaugh on the stand, desperately trying to get Murdaugh to explain this away, which he could not. However, I'm going to give you just a couple of things he said about that lie. On the stand, he said that he had lied, and he had feared that acknowledging he was at the crime scene immediately before the murders would lead police to suspect he was the killer. Now, initially, I was like,
Duh.
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I could see somebody panicking and saying, "Oh, I wasn't there." Then, and this is where I have a problem with Murdaugh in this statement. Then remembered I'm a dad, and I don't even want to put myself in that position, but if I were in any sort of position like that, I really wouldn't care what kind of light that put me in, or if they wanted to investigate me. Who gives a shit? I didn't certainly have anything to do with this, and I would have told the truth. So I could see the initial. I could even see him saying that to him and then saying, I was there. I panicked for a second. Waiting for years after that and having to get caught doing it. That's a big point. I agree with you.
Let me throw y'all for a loop, okay? 30 years of being involved in jury trials, which you're not seeing, but you're saying it, but you're not seeing and you're not thinking about this. Everything that's been said, the lies, the pill use, the stealing, all this shit is for one reason. Because even though they say it's the jury, your peers, there's not 12 people in that box, or now with the alternate in that box, there are Alex Murdaugh's peers. They are regular people, citizens, who, first of all, don't make millions of dollars a year, even if they're stealing or not, to not even ever been involved in one murder case, much less having, someone you hired to kill you and they didn't go through and all this. All these things are doing is shocking regular John Q, who's sitting on that jury. And at the end of the day, when they get back there, they're going to be like, holy fuck, how in the, yes, he's a piece of shit. That is going to be the biggest part where they're going to think that in their brains, they're going to be like, there's no way logically this guy didn't do it. But it's going to be all these things. The prosecutors throwing all this shit at the wall, hoping, you used to be in pain. Let's say there's a kid painting the wall and they don't have a brush. They're just slinging paint at the wall and hoping some of the stick and cover up. I'm telling you, those jurors are going to make him pay for it. Everything that's been said, they're hoping there's one little dart that sticks in to the mind that shocks their senses so hard they'd be like, fuck that, he's guilty. I'm just telling you my point.
Yeah, and I don't think he's actually throwing shit against the wall. I think he is very artfully placing brick on top of brick on top of brick.
That may have been a bad metaphor. What I'm saying, yes, he's trying to build a strong brick wall. What I'm saying is everything, every single thing that they said that's negative about him, and he even gets up there and tries to, and did a pretty good job for John Q. Public, that he gets out in front of us and says, yeah, I'm guilty of that, I'm guilty of that, I'm guilty of that. But still, when they go back in that jury room and they're sitting around that table, they're going to be like, fuck me. I've never heard any crazy shit like this in my life. Totality of circumstances, they're going to come back and find me guilty.
Well, let's play we're in that jury room.
Yeah.
Okay, because what would we have to think happened? What's the scenario here that's different than Alex having done this? What?
Oh, there's several.
Okay. Were you saying to get a not guilty?
Yeah. Well, like who? How else could this have happened? Because there are some really key people. I mean, the family's guns are used, right?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No. They've never proved that was a family's gun. They proved the family owned similar guns.
What with the guns that are missing?
They've never found the guns.
I know, but listen. Yeah, I understand where you come from. You got to understand what I just said. At the end of the day, when they take everything else, just because the guns are missing, they talked about his favorite Benelli shotgun and the short rifle, They just happened to go missing. Him and his homie just shot, last year, whatever it may be. That, okay, they didn't prove it.
In the spring, not last year.
Okay, they didn't prove it, but guess what? That jury, they take it at totality of circumstances. They can be like, is this a coincidence just like everything else? I think not. Guilty.
I understand. But I think the better way to ask the question you used to ask, Mike, was each juror to go around you go around the room and you say, what problems do you have with the case?
The first thing they
what
gotta
are,
do is-
assuming somebody was saying, I don't think he did it. Okay. Well, why don't you think he did it? What are the problems with that? I think what will come up is the fact that there were two guns. I'm sorry. That's not practical in my mind. That doesn't, I know that the prosecution tried to say, well, he's a lawyer and he's smart and he knew if he had two guns that it would throw people off as if there was one person. Yes, hindsight is 20/20, and that's certainly, but is someone really going to have that frame of mind if they're about to kill their wife and child? I don't know.
Yeah, if they're going to kill the wife and child, they planned it. And he went to his mama's house and did all that shit. That's planned, man. If you think I'm not
two guns,
fuck yeah, I'd be smart enough to do it. That certainly would have thrown law enforcement for the loop. And then it's the reason we're talking about it now. The dude's smart if he's nothing else.
I don't dispute that.
The fact that those specific type of weapons are missing, actually, you're right. It doesn't prove anything. Guess what? If I'm prosecuted when I get done today, I'm going to address that point. I'm going to say there is no such thing as this many coincidences.
Well,
and it's not, and he's smart enough. He learned from his past mistake of getting Joe Blow to shoot him, and he didn't kill him. He'd had time enough to plan it out. He goes to his mom's afterwards, comes back, makes the 911 call, and gets fucked up on saying check the pulse ahead of time, or didn't check it ahead of time. It's 1.5 seconds, whatever the fuck. He's smart. Guess what? There is no such thing as a perfect crime, and he isn't getting away with it.
But let's talk about this for a second. Where are the guns?
Fuck, if I'm at swim, someone who isn't me ever had an involvement in a case that involved a gun, I could promise you that pistol is in 17 different pieces in 17 different bodies of water in 8 different parishes.
But he didn't have time for that.
Wait.
We didn't have time that night for that, but he had time.
Wait. If I'm planning it out, I already know that I got the two weapons there, and I'm going to kill them, whether I get rid of them on the way to my mom's house or whatever it may be, or I'm going to have a place that I can run out in the woods and hide, be outside the crime scene tape, hide them in, and go back and get them at a later date and destroy them. You better believe if he's smart enough to think about having two weapons, he already knew how he's going to get rid of the weapons. He ain't going down to the pawn shop and pawn them.
Mike, do we know the time frame between where they pretty much nailed down the time in which they were killed to a degree of certainty within 10 minutes, let's say. Do they know a time frame?
No, I think
they know what time the
tighter
phones
than that.
was.
They know both phones locked dead at 8:49 something.
Okay.
And they know the video was taken at 8:44 something.
5 minutes before.
So about a 5-minute time frame.
They have him on location within 5 minutes.
Okay.
But not only that, it takes a minute or so for those phones to actually lock off from the last time that they were used. So it's shorter than a 5-minute period.
So what's important to me to know is if you can nail that down between 5 minutes, one way or the other, what was the time that the 911 call was made? That was at.
Well, the 911 call isn't made until after he comes back from
At
which is
10 something, 10 something at night.
So there's an hour
after he goes to his mother. He kills him. I'm damn sure taking those weapons with me, and I know what rivers I'm going to throw them in, and I'm not throwing them in the same one. And he had hours to get rid of shit, and change clothes and hose down and do everything.
No, they went
else.
through the entire timeline of the night.
I was under the impression that there was only like he arrived at his mother's at a certain time, and there was only a few minutes in between when he could have committed the murders and when his mother saw him.
And that's
7 minutes or something.
But here's the deal on that too,
because they have OnStar.
Right. But the deal on that is, homie's got strobes if he needs to. He ain't worried about getting stopped. And first of all, he's going to clean up before he drives to his mama's house. Right. Then he's going to get rid of the weapons, and whatever that time frame is, that between he got to his mama's house and got back, they know when we call 911, right?
Yeah. So so the video is taken at 8:44. At 8:49:01, Paul's phone locks for good. At 8:49:31, Maggie's phone locks for good. So we know Alex was there just 5 minutes before, right? His phone. So Alex's phone was not down at the kennel, right? So that's another thing is.
Well, he said that was normal.
Whatever.
They didn't get a good cell service on that property, and so if he was going to the kennel,
the other two, they had.
I'm saying what he said.
Wife and his son. My wife and his son had cell service there. In
so at 9:03, his phone starts to show movement again. 283 steps are taken by him in a couple minute period around 9:03. So that's scrambling around scrambling to clean up, scrambling,
doing whatever, and then getting en route to his
that is
mom's
also
house.
a concern. Yes.
Yeah, and then getting en route to his mama's house, where she said he was there for X amount of time, but they proved that he's lying about that. Also, he wasn't there for that length of time, and then he has to come back and make the 911 calls.
Well, the other thing is, if he's there and he immediately after the video goes back to the house, they clocked the average speed of the golf cart back to the house, and it's a 4 to 5 minute trip, right? So he would have been back at the main house at 8:49 at the time of the murders. You don't hear those shots,
right? And let me tell you this: I'm not going if I'm smart enough to bring two different weapons. I'm smart enough to already know where I'm going to get cleaned up at. I ain't cleaning it up in my house where they can send a crime scene and use luminol and everything else. It may be in a dog kennel where the hose was moved. It may be wherever my shit is planned out. You don't kill your wife and your kid. Bring two different weapons. Drive to your mama's house, do all this shit. It was all planned out. The problem is there is no such thing as a perfect crime.
Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts to spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted feeling. Hey, y'all, I ordered a super cool piece. It's a candle with a sculpture of LSU's Tiger Stadium on top of it. And each officially licensed laser cut wooden replica features up to 4 layers of detail, creating a bird's eye view of a specific football field, seating section, and more. And every label includes your stadium's name, the team's logo, and school location. And it has a coconut, soy, vegan wax infused with sandalwood smell that creates tailgates and touchdown scent profile, reminiscent of game day. It's invigorating like fresh cut grass and nostalgic like smoke from a pre-game grill, and calming like the crisp autumn air of a new semester on campus. Y'all, I love it. I have it at the base of my TV, and I'm ready to watch the Tigers play on Saturday night, right? Uncommon Goods. Look, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday hosts and hostess gift to the coolest finds for kids to hits for everyone from the book lovers to diehard sports fans. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you can just find anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RLRC. That's uncommongoods.com/RLRC for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, were all out of the ordinary.
Zaxby's Sensation Salad is so much more than a plain old salad. It's a salad, which begs the question, at what point does a salad stop being a salad and become a salad? Is it when you add Zaxby's fried chicken to it? Crunchy wontons? Asian slaw? Citrus vinaigrette? Teriyaki glaze? Sweet and spicy sauce? Or is it when you top it all with a handmade perfectly fried egg roll? Without a doubt, the egg roll. The Sensation Salad, only at Zaxby's.
Let me answer this question, though, for Mike, because they answered that question regarding the hearing. They actually performed a test where they shot similar weapons from the crime scene with someone inside the house that was measuring decibels.
I've done
When you're inside the house, it only measured 30 decibels. So it's very possible he wouldn't have heard that if he was in the house. When you're outside the house, it measured over 100 decibels. So if he was outside the house, he absolutely would have heard it. But even the experts that they brought on said if you're inside the house, it would have been very hard to hear those shots.
And
apparently it's well insulated or whatever.
The people in the jury are calling bullshit on that because some of them are at least from the country. I have a place in the country, and even though it's a muffled sound, I know when somebody's shooting on one of the surrounding properties, which could be up to 200 acres away.
I think that depends on how insulated the house is.
Okay, so
30 decibels is 30 decibels.
Just give me your feedback on this on this timeline.
I can't.
Okay, so at 9:07, he leaves Moselle to go to Alameda. He's clocked at 74 miles an hour.
Yep.
On his way to Alameda.
Shit, Woody goes 80.
Okay.
Actually,
He's
last time I got pulled over, I was talking to you.
he's exhibiting call behavior that's unlike his normal phone records. He doesn't do this normally, where he is dialing out like crazy, right? Building his alibi. So he's making calls to Chris Wilson. He's calling Maggie. He's calling Paul. He's making all of these phone calls while he's on his way to Alameda. He gets to Alameda at 9:22. He makes it in 15 minutes. Now, he's going there to see his...
At 9 o'clock at night.
Okay, he's going there to see
How old is she? She's got to be in her 80s.
So he gets there at 9:22, but he takes 197 steps between 9:22 and 9:32 before he enters the house.
Probably got rid of clothes and everything else.
So he gets there. He's going in a rush late at night to go see his, his mother, right? But he takes 197 steps and stays outside for 10 minutes before he does it.
He stashed his shit then.
Okay, and then at...
Well, fuck that. I wouldn't drive all that weird shit in my car. I'd have got rid of it on the way. But whatever.
Well, he had to
clean off.
He had to clean the tarp
right.
/ raincoat, whatever. And he does all of that, and he is back at Moselle at 10:01.
And what was the distance?
Back at Moselle at 10:01, and it was 15 minutes to get there. So assume something like 15 minutes to get back. That means he spent all of 10 minutes
at his mom
inside.
And didn't he say he spent a half hour or some shit like that? You what?
Well, and he tried to get the caretaker to say it was longer, and so no one agreed with
totality of circumstances
with his timeline there. And then when he gets back to Moselle, he arrives at the kennel at 10:05:57. So this would be when he supposedly finds the bodies for the first time. 10:05:57. He tells numerous people who testified that he checked and he even turned Paul over, and that's when Paul's cell phone supposedly popped out of his pocket. But he checked both of them to see if they were breathing. his 911 call
1.25
was made
seconds.
at 10:06:14.
Within say he didn't have time.
So-
is what they're saying, to check the pulses and everything. It was like 1.25 seconds from his arrival to the time he called.
Well, it's
They said
19 seconds.
19 seconds from his
19
arrival
seconds.
to the call. You have to get out of your vehicle. That's 3 seconds. You have to go and see what you see, and then you go check both of them, and even roll your son over and see your cell phone come out in 19 seconds. Then you call a 911 all in 19 seconds. No, he got out. He called 911 within 19 seconds because he already knew the carnage he was going to see.
And there were discrepancies between what he told some friends and what he told police he did.
And it
right
goes
away.
back to my
Well,
totality of circumstances. All these people on the jury, regular people, they're going to put it all together like the pieces of the puzzle or the brick wall. It'd be what it'd be.
And as someone playing devil's advocate on that, I would say you get out of a truck and you see your son literally with his head blown just about clean off. You see your wife also killed, shot 5 times with a assault rifle. My first statement to that would be, I don't know what I did. My mind was fucked. And how could anybody expect somebody to be able to recall these intricate details of when I did this and when I did that at a crime scene when I've got my entire family dead?
You just made your own case. They can't expect him to do it. He did it, and he lied continuously about it because he's a fucking murderer. You're absolutely right. Nobody would remember that. That would have thrown the biggest red flag for me as an investigator. If he could tell me, oh, I did this and I did this, and then I can go back and verify on the timelines. A regular person wouldn't. I'd be sitting there throwing up.
Oh, yeah.
Seeing my dead kids
Exactly.
and everything else.
Block it out totally.
You can't.
Right.
Horror
He did
and
it because he's fucking lying.
And that's why you should have been on the prosecution. Because that's a great point.
These motherfuckers wouldn't want me
They
to do this
didn't
case.
hammer that. And what Woody said is actually a great point. Nobody.
What you said was a great point.
Yeah.
I just readdressed it for you.
But you tied that together, and the prosecution should have done that. How can you remember all of that? But they took it the other direction. They said he can remember everything except for this particular part of it. And this is a guy that they kept using the term had a photographic memory, which he came back with, I've never said that. You said that.
Well, but they bucketed that with he couldn't remember being at the kennel at 8:44. He couldn't. It wasn't just that particular moment. It was numerous moments that were key moments throughout. That all of a sudden his memory for detail and the photographic memory, whatever, escaped him at these critical moments. But look, what human being wouldn't collapse in the face of that?
Right.
Wouldn't take a long time to be composed enough to make a 911 call.
Right.
I mean, there's
Right. I don't even know. I've never met those people in my life. If I came up on that scene, I would panic.
Let me tell you
and I'm just
This is outside.
John Q.
Just-
citizen.
I'm going to give you all a scenario. It's a true scenario. All my years of training, experience, working death scenes, everything, all of being shot at, being on a SWAT team, being in the military, all my high pressure situations, and having to make instant split second decisions. I'm going to go back. Courtney Coco's murder trial. When I got back, I was walking into my hotel room, and I'd asked them to clean my room that day. I never get them to do it the first 2 days I'm there. And when I left out, I said, things off. I need my room cleaned today. Went with the family after court to whatever Texas Roadhouse is in the parking lot of my hotel, and had like 2 beers and ordered dinner and went back to my room. Get my shit, open the key, walk in the room. I look to my left. I see towels. The bathroom obviously wasn't clean. I see towels hanging and kind of over the corner on a stack. I'm looking in my room. I always get 2 double beds when I travel out of town. I keep my suitcase on one. I had my recording equipment there, but there was pizza boxes from night before, or the 2 days empty trash from the days 4. And I look at the bed that I sleep in, and the covers are pulled up, but it's not made up. It's got big lumps in and shit, like, just hurriedly pull the covers up. I walk up to the bed. I'm still not thinking. I'm getting undressed. I got my wings. I'm about to lay down and eat and get some sleep. I pull back the covers, and I see that big wad of pubic hairs right on my thing. You know what I did? All my training experience in the world, I freaked the fuck out. I grabbed that shit and I was like, ugh, and went and threw it in the toilet. I didn't flush it, thank God. But I'm just saying,
your mind would have told you don't touch it,
right?
Yeah,
and I'm also, in retrospect, I shouldn't have touched it or did whatever, but I freaked out. And but what do you think this dude should have done when he gets there? You're going to freak out. You're not calling 911 within 19 seconds. You're going to touch your low ends. You're going to cry. You're going to throw up. You're going to fall on your knees. You're going to do whatever.
I agree with that.
It didn't happen.
3 outfit changes.
Yeah.
That day.
Right.
I could see the one if he had blood and it was his family's blood on his clothing, whether he was guilty or innocent. I can see him not wanting to have that on his clothes.
There are pictures of him in 3 different shirts from that day. The first shirt.
I used to know a guy that changed several times a day.
Okay, but he didn't lose his shirt, did he?
Right.
No.
They never found the shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, that's questionable. Is it?
And
I mean,
again,
hey, I agree with you.
The regular
that's a
people
red
sitting
flag.
on the jury going like, shit. I'll tell you what. When I go to my place in the woods and I get there, Thursday evening, Friday evening, whenever it is, I like that secret thing I went out of town for. So I showed up at this place, nicely dressed, at my country place, nicely dressed. My boys are there at the bar, the headquarters is what I call it. And they said, look at him, all cleaned up and clean shaven and dressed nice. And my other buddy said, wait till you see him on Monday when he leaves. Yeah. I might not change clothes all weekend, right? And this dude changed in 3 days and 12 jury members, they're going to be like, that's some bullshit. And you can't find one of the items of clothing.
That is a great point. So let me just bring up one more issue that I had. And I think this is the strongest. As far as the defense, this is their strongest defense they would have for the entire
The defense would have loved to
case.
have you as a juror. They'd have fought to keep you on the jury.
Well, I think he's doing devil's advocate.
I'm playing devil's advocate here. I mean,
No. I meant to tell you this the other day.
Yeah.
When we were recording, I was like, he would be the perfect defense juror.
well, because I question
Because you
everything.
I
yes.
get it. I'm not saying as a negative.
No. I get it. I get it. Well, I'm totally unbiased, and I'm stepping out of everything and just saying what makes sense. Here's the biggest problem I have with the whole case that I think the defense has a little bit of something to hang their hat on. Y'all can't see me, but I'm actually straightening up right now in the chair because I'm so ready to let this out because it bothers me a lot.
I'm ready to hear this motherfucker.
Where Paul Murdaugh was shot, y'all, this is a very, very small area. You have a long arm rifle, a shotgun, as a matter of fact. Now, Murdaugh, let me make my case. Murdaugh, they had tons of shotguns. Here's the problem with shotguns. When you shoot someone with a shotgun, there's no way to tie it to a specific shotgun because it's a shell that comes out, and the BBs are actually what hits the person that's being shot.
Shell doesn't come out, just the
it ejects
it's a
out.
wad,
Yeah,
and BBs come out. The shell stays in.
The shell stays in. You can eject it. Correct. But there's no way with a AR-15, for example, if you fire it, there will be bores inside that bullet, and those bores can be matched to that specific weapon.
Striation
marks.
striation
like how Maggie's was matched to
yes.
stuff on the shooting
So let me
range.
finish this point. So that was one of the issues was it could have been any one of the shotguns they have. As a matter of fact, they brought up the fact that a few of them look like they had been fired recently. They have residue in them and stuff like that. And Murdaugh's response to that was, hey, my son wasn't the greatest at cleaning his guns. Now, that makes sense. I mean, I know a lot of people that suck about cleaning their guns.
like cleaning.
So that, yeah. So, I mean, that he had a good point there. Especially a younger guy, probably. Now, that being said, this area was like a closet that this all took place in. It is definitely possible, but very impractical that this 6'4" guy, in my opinion, was the only shooter. And that is, he would have had to really be in an awkward position to do this. They actually tried to demonstrate this in the way that that Paul Murdaugh was shot the second time. You would have had to have almost been bent in this weird angle if you were Murdaugh to make that shot. As a matter of fact, both the experts, and yes, they're experts for the defense, but both these experts, who are very highly respected folks in that community, stated it is so impractical, it's almost outside the realm of possibility that would have happened like that. They had BBs stuck in the ceiling. There was very little blowback, which usually when you are in close distance, there's much more blowback than.
How can you say there's blowback? The blowbacks in a firearm, the firearm's never recovered. Secondly,
it's on the person.
Away. Yeah, but he had all the time in the world to change.
But you have bone, you have BBs coming back on you. You have injuries.
You have fucking water hose to wash it off.
But what about the shots?
And the shot, sawed off barrel again, or a nail in position. Everything can be explained away. I mean, everything can be explained.
It's definitely in the realm of possibility. It's just impractical.
Look at Lee Harvey Oswald and the magic bullet theory. I'm going to tell you something.
You think Lee Harvey Oswald did that himself?
Fuck no, he didn't do it himself.
Grassy knoll.
The fact is, and Charlie Watson, we talked about this on Bloody Angola episode yesterday on about Will Hayden, Sons of Guns.
Yeah.
He is one of the ones that told me, he said, Woody, bullets or shells or whatever, they can say whatever they want to. They never forensically do what they're supposed to do. Okay. And I know they prove it with gel and lasers and all this shit now, but he said, if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Yeah. Physics is imperfect. And, they say an elephant can hang from the tail, can take its tail and tie it around a daisy from a mountain. And there's certain physical formulas you can run that'll say that daisy won't come out of the ground, but.
Wow.
That's right. That's a little physics education for you.
Do you know how to jack off an elephant?
I do not. Oh my God.
Good, Woody. Good.
I wish we should do video so y'all can see that.
No, you're going to leave that one in probably.
I will.
I do another show with that's called The Death of Journalism with a journalist by the name of John Ziegler. And John is someone
Shameless plug.
who has
That's full blooded.
Please give us a listen.
We get it back.
John is someone who has lost all faith in humanity. He believes that human beings are not good. That basically they run around all day following their self-interest, and they'll do almost anything to protect their self-interest. And some are worse than others. We did a series together investigating what happened and what didn't happen at Penn State in the Penn State scandal. And one of the things that we saw in that case was expert witnesses for hire. That you're able to go out and approach people and tell those people what you actually want them to find in their investigation, and then pay them to find that in their investigation, and then have them come out and tell you tell a jury exactly what you want them to tell a jury. I found myself very impacted by the defense forensic witnesses last week. Is it Friday last week? And I sort of blew off when the prosecution asked him, well, how much did you get paid? And one of the guys was, I think was going to make somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000 for having shown up, stayed at a nice hotel, and done an hour on the witness stand. Not a bad little payday, right? And lots of people do this for a living, and some do it. I do a lot of consulting. I know you do, Woody, but we do it with a
sense of morality,
and just answering questions honestly as we know a situation. Others will take advantage,
sell their ass, and I've seen that. There's good and bad in every profession. And you're right. Before I started, the 6-time award-winning Real Life Real Crime, since we just all plug in. I travel the country as a defense expert, but I show up and I read the case file and I would tell them, you better plead this motherfucker out. Or I would take it to the court in trial and testify because I didn't sell myself out, right? We're talking about the morality issue.
Yeah. So
now we all got to plug in.
Well,
you're the defense, and Alex is.
I'd have told him to try to plead this motherfucker out.
Let me just say this one thing.
Sorry.
Before Mike, you get into this, and that is the 2-time nominated local leaders of the podcast.
Oh my God, guys!
I also do consulting for podcasts. Thank you very much.
True, you do. And hey, also Envision Podcast Studio, where Real Life Real Crime, the 6-time award winner, is produced, and
Envision
Podcast Studio in Del Norte.
My mother's been having a rough time, and we recently started a GoFundMe page for her. Okay, we got to stop this, guys.
We got to stop this fucking case because I'm about to flip this table. Be like Jesus in the temple and flip this table.
I found myself impacted in the moment by those expert witnesses, and then I thought the rebuttal was maybe a bit stronger than their actual testimony, and so I don't see anything other than what we always see, which is that you don't know the makeup of the jury, truly, what's in their hearts, what's in their minds, what makes these individual people tick.
Yep.
And we're always at the mercy of that. Like, I seriously wonder, will we at some point in time, go to some kind of artificial intelligence to play the role of juries or something? Because unfortunately, I did ask ChatGPT if Alex Murdaugh had murdered his wife and son, and did not get a straight.
Who?
ChatGPT. AI.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I just come in here. I asked this guy, and what do you want me to ask?
Yeah, I have that. I have that same app. That's actually pretty cool.
Has Woody Overton actually won 6? Actually,
6 People's Choice podcast. 2 for best male host in the world. 2 for best drama and storytelling.
Choice.
1 for best true crime. And 1 for
that's
most
too much. I can't ask
information.
him that much.
Been nominated
Awards.
many more than that.
Let's see what he says.
Livingston Parish Chamber Business of the Year 2022. Local leaders.
I was there.
No, Woody did not win any People's Choice Podcast Awards.
That's full
lie.
of shit. So what you're talking about the jurors? Listen to this.
No. What you don't know about this is that it's all based on
old data.
2020. Yeah, there's no data from the last couple of years in this thing. But that's why I wouldn't tell me whether Alex.
That app fucking sucks.
It doesn't. No, it's not bad for writing a paper if you're a 15-year-old.
Hey, so real quick, I know I interrupt you a lot. That's what I do. But you talking about juries? It's not perfect, but it's the best system in the world. But check this out. More breaking news, y'all. So back to the juror that was removed this morning that we told you about earlier this hour. Since one of the 12 jurors in the double murder trial of Alex Murdaugh was removed Thursday morning and replaced with an alternate after Circuit Court Judge Clifton Newman said she engaged in improper conversations outside the courtroom. Newman said he spoke with the juror, identified as number 785, and she denied having discussed the case. But then 2 other people were interviewed about their contact with the juror, and they waffled on the nature and the extent of the contact. The juror ultimately spoke with 3 people about the case, but not extensively. And even said he learned, although it involved giving her opinion regarding evidence received, that bitch would have voted not guilty. See what I'm saying? She would have been a judge and lied. So you're right. You never know who's on the jury and what they're thinking and everything else. But if you're going to sit there and lie to a judge, and in the most famous murder trial in most recent
Since
years,
OJ for sure,
right? And so I bet the defense is don't excuse her.
Okay, so folks, we just gave you the prosecution's summation and what we thought of that summation, actually, and played a little bit of deliberation. I guess that could be our game for today. We played deliberation, and if we were deliberating as these jurors. Still up, and actually what's transpiring right now as we record this is the defense's side of this case. So we'll be bringing you that and maybe even a verdict on our next
Can I say one other thing?
And
Sure.
the prosecution's redress to the defense, what's going on right now with the defense.
Assuming they redress,
So-
which they will, I'm
they
sure.
will.
But
I know we have a bunch
They
of
don't have to.
a bunch of listeners in Australia and Canada, and so I don't know if this is true in Australia and Canada, but in the United States, in almost every city of any size now across the country, one of the biggest advertising categories is from personal injury attorneys. They are on every billboard. They're at every radio stop set. They're on every television break. They become personalities within the particular city, right? Murdaugh, well, and I haven't seen his billboards, or I actually saw a TV ad he did with one of the people he stole money from, which
no
is
way.
unbelievable. But this guy was that kind of a face around town. So if you're in this area, think about this as, if Morris Bart or
My dad was the first lawyer to ever advertise on television in the state of Louisiana, and the board came after him hard because of the ethics. And he did classic commercials, Morris Bart, and all of them came out. My dad paved the way for that. And when I was a kid growing up, they were like, "Your last name's Overton? Lee Overton must be your daddy."
one call.
That's all. Yeah, Morris Bart.
So these jurors, this guy is the whatever all these guys have slogans. That was your dad's, the Dudley DeBosier guys. What's their?
My dad's was.
Look, we're giving a lot of people some free
My
advertising
dad's
here.
was. He's long since retired. It's the only fair way.
Okay, so I wonder how that plays into these jurors. If this was
it all goes
happening
part of it.
in this area, Spencer Callahan is on.
Right.
How is that playing out in the jury? It only takes one, and I think sane people can sit around a table, look at this enormous pile of circumstantial evidence, look at this human being who obviously had an evil core and put himself above every other human on the planet. He was willing to lie, cheat, steal, and I certainly believe murder to protect his self-interest, or what he thought was in his self-interest. But is the jury going to find, or 12 people going to find the strength to
Guess what?
to say that?
We're going to find out, and I would absolutely pay the money if it's not guilty for the cases, or by y'all's cases, if I never have to talk about this shit again, other than guilty, not guilty, the defense summation. It's everything has been said that can be said. There's 7 top, and you can cut this out or not. I don't care. There's 7 top 100 podcasts in true crime alone, all dedicated, all named after the Murdaugh case. 7.
Oh no, this has
Everybody in the world is riding this horse, and we're not riding the horse. We're telling you the facts, but everybody in the world, and it can only be said so much, it's done. We'll have one more with the defense and the prosecution's redress and the guilty, not guilty.
The case has as much public interest as any case in recent memory.
He's a murdering piece of shit.
Well, and
I've dealt with those people for 30 years, and he's going to get what's coming to him.
Well, and a lot of that interest is, seeing a family, an individual of prominence and wealth and status and privilege fall from grace in such a dramatic, way.
It's because he's an asshole.
Well, and I think the other should he be found guilty, one thing that'll certainly stick with me is that were it not for his son speaking from the grave,
That's priceless.
he doesn't, and by many accounts, not to talk bad of the dearly departed, but he wasn't a great human being. Himself and did some pretty shitty things, but
acorn from the tree, right?
But his last living move, basically of making that video, ends up being the thing that proves his dad was there.
If I'm the prosecutor, after the defense gets done doing what they're doing right now, I would close with that video and I would say just what you said. Listen to his son, voice from the grave, telling you Daddy was there.
There you have it, folks.
Daddy smoked me like a pack of cools.
Can't wait to bring you all the defense side, maybe even the verdict side of the Murdaugh trial.
And the redress, because that's whatever defense says, the prosecution's going to have an answer for.
There you go. Until next time, I'm Jim Chapman.
I'm Woody Overton.
And I'm Mike Agavino.
Of Real Life Real Crime Daily. Peace.
Shabusiness.
Shabusiness.